West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, September 8th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest news, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Goodness, follow me on X at Jeff Hunt for the more unfiltered takes. Whether you're sipping coffee in Arvada, commuting through Lakewood, or starting your day in Thornton, we're here to ignite debate on the issues that matter to Denver and all of Colorado. So let's dive into one of today's red-hot stories. A new Colorado poll survey showing Denver voters are split on Mayor Mike Johnston, with a sharp rise in disapproval. Wonder why. 50% of Denverites now view Johnston unfavorably, up significantly from last year, with budget cuts, homelessness, and immigration handling driving the discontent. He's laying off 170 city workers and leaving hundreds of positions vacant. Tough news for a city already stretched thin. Here in Colorado, from the Front Range to the Western Slope, we're fed up with leaders who can't balance budgets or tackle crime effectively. Small businesses in Denver's Rhino District and families in Highlands Ranch are feeling the squeeze from high taxes and rising safety concerns. Johnston's pushing a $1 billion bond, remember this one, for infrastructure, but a lot more than that, including a Indian Cultural Center. What we need right now. But over half of voters haven't even heard of it before the poll. The left's praising his optimism, but 51% of voters are saying Denver's not on the right track with homelessness and costs climbing. So, what do you believe about Mike Johnston's leadership so far? I think it's pretty generous that only 50% think he's doing things wrong. My goodness. But do you think it's enough? Do you think Denver voters will ever change? Are they kind of anyone but a Republican ever? And so we'll always have Democrats there. Or could this turn around, and could it mean that his $1 billion bond plan could be facing some headwinds coming up in this vote? We've got a lot to talk about. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. Monday. 63 and sunny outside. It is Denver. Beautiful today. Expecting a high of 87. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, DJT has just appealed to the Supreme Court asking permission to freeze billions of dollars in foreign aid. 47 had to do this, well, because of those commie judges, activists, quote-unquote judges, who declared themselves king or queen and ordered Trump to spend the aid money.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
The media doesn't understand that this is a war on crime, and DJT just wants to help in Chicago. where 5 people are dead after shootings over the weekend. 18 were shot.
We could solve Chicago very quickly, but we're going to make a decision as to where we go over the next day or two. When you look at what happened to D.C. in a short period of time, honestly, it's amazing. Over a period of 12 days, in other words, on the 12th day, we had the crime just about solved. And right now, people are walking out. They're going out right now to restaurants all over D.C., whereas if you go back a year ago or 6 months ago, nobody was going out.
And they're losing their minds in Boston also this morning as ICE continues to do their job. South Korea's foreign minister will be in the U.S. today to help bring home some 300 Korean workers arrested last week for working illegally at a Hyundai plant in Georgia. The plan is to fly the workers, mostly employed by subcontractors, home on chartered flights. South Korea's government has expressed displeasure with the public release of the footage of the arrest while it has been trying to finalize a trade deal with the U.S. 47 speaking at the Museum of the Bible in D.C. this morning. His appearance coincides with a public meeting held by the Department of Justice's Religious Liberty Commission to gather information and testimony on issues related to religious freedom in America.
That's one of the best museums out there. If
Is
you've
it?
ever been to Washington, D.C., you got to make it a point to go to the Museum of the Bible. Fantastic. I've spent
Right.
8 hours in that museum. I mean, everything from like early manuscripts to how the Bible influenced, the Civil War, the battle for equality in this nation. I mean, it's a history. Plus, I mean, they have some of the earliest manuscripts, and then when you get to walk through some of the like exhibits of what it was like when Jesus was around, and little huts and what people live like. It's just so cool. It is.
So you were
cool.
there for 8 hours, and you probably could go back for another 20,
easily,
right?
Easily. Yeah, I love that
amazing.
museum. It's one of my favorites. We hosted events there when I ran the Centennial Institute there with Betsy DeVos. We hosted a conversation there. When we led the March for Life, we took like nearly 200 people out there, and and Hugh Hewitt moderated a conversation with Betsy DeVos, and we were at the Museum of the Bible, and wonderful dinner. It's just absolutely one of the best museums.
That is so cool. Got to put it on your list then if you're heading to D.C. And now you can eat dinner there safely. And go out to eat and actually enjoy the capital city. Interesting. NBC News Decision Desk poll says that Gen Z men who voted for DJT say that having children and financial independence are the top things on their list, while women for Harris said a fulfilling job and having lots of money is what's important. Having children was ranked 12th by the women. No shocker there if they voted for Harris. Wow.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's getting
kinda
harder
sad.
and harder to marry somebody that doesn't share your political values.
No doubt.
Because the foundation of them has become so different.
Absolutely.
I mean, could you imagine if you believe in life at conception and your spouse doesn't?
Yes.
Like, think about that fundamental, like, that difference. You're either murdering one of your children or you're having a healthcare procedure to remove a clump of cells. Think about the difference in that.
Yes. Oh, I agree.
To the young men out there, your wife, potential wife, better share your values.
And
you're
also,
gonna have a lot of problems.
That's right. And also, if you don't believe that marriage is a covenant with God.
Right.
That from the beginning.
Dude,
that
my wife and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah, same.
Dude, if they're because there's a third person in our marriage, it's Jesus Christ, who gives us patience and kindness and compassion.
No doubt.
That, I just don't know how people do it without the Holy Spirit
Yep.
and Christ.
I agree with you. The L.A. Police Department is no longer providing security for former VP Kamala Khan. The LAPD, along with the CHP, started providing security for Harris last week after DJT revoked her Secret Service protection. In the following days, the LAPD faced backlash, with critics saying officers were being diverted from crime suppression duties. Agree with that. A paddleboarder is presumed dead after they were reported missing in Horsetooth Reservoir just west of Fort Collins. The paddleboarder was not wearing a life jacket. After thorough search efforts, the incident is now a recovery mission. A boy has died after a house party shooting in Denver. The shooting in the 1100 block of North Syracuse Street was reported on social media early Saturday morning. Investigators say the boy was shot in a parking lot outside the party and died after he was taken to the hospital. No arrests have been announced. And just get it done. The Broncos are 1-0 after kicking off the season against Tennessee with a victory. Bo Nix, 25 of 40, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, fumbled the ball away once. R.J. Harvey, 70 yards. Dobbins with 63 yards. Cortland Sutton, 6 catches and a touchdown. But the defense was great again, made it difficult on quarterback Cam Ward, rookie quarterback.
Same look with the elbow brace and all. Cam Ward in the end zone goes down. It's Jonathan Cooper. They're going to mark him outside of the end zone. One-step punt.
And that was huge for the Broncos.
Especially a young quarterback, his greatest friend can be a run game. And so if we were able to keep him in the pocket and force him to try to beat us, we felt we'd take advantage of that.
Head coach Sean Payton, the Ravens were leading the Bills late last night by 15, halfway or late in the fourth quarter. Then everything unraveled. Derrick Henry was running all over the Bills, and then
Mitchell Payton, first-year player, I should say, is the man protecting, and Henry lost the football. And the Bills are down there.
oh yes, they were. And then in the end, kicker Matt Prater, former Bronco, with a winning 32-yarder, 41-40. Buffalo wins it. Aaron Rodgers, he wins with the Steelers with his new team. He looked good against the Jets. Micah Parsons and the Packers over the Lions at Lambeau. And in college football, the Buffs win over the weekend, as does Wyoming. UNC looked like they were going to pull off the upset against CSU, but they had a touchdown pass ripped away by the officials. Close call. They said it wasn't a catch by Carver Cheeks. CSU marches downfield, and they win it with seconds remaining. They escaped that one. 60 in Boulder, and we have 61 in Littleton, 63 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Monday.
Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
The Denver forecast on this early Monday, just a few passing clouds this morning, temperatures in the mid-50s by daybreak. Then for the rest of your Monday, mostly sunny and summery, highs around 85, lows down to 60 tonight. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, lots of sunshine and dry with highs in the upper 80s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. We'll get to the phone lines here in a second. A little bit of bad news. We lost one of our regular listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Over the weekend. Eric Manning had passed away. Got notified by his family. He was a regular listener to lots of talk radio. Not just us, but guys over on some of the other stations as well. And so if you're in the talk radio world, you knew Eric Manning pretty well, passed away. His family's done a GoFundMe, help cover some of the funeral costs. I'll link to this on my X account. If you go to x.com/Jeff Hunt, I want to support Eric Manning. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family.
We're sad to hear that he's gone. Yeah.
Let's talk Mountain High Appliance real quick. They're continuing their Labor Day sales opportunity. Yep. You can still take advantage of it. Mountain High Appliance knows you work hard all year and you deserve to be rewarded. So why not take advantage of Labor Day Mountain High Appliance sales opportunities, rolling out their best prices of the year at all of their showrooms. Get over to Mountain High today for incredible savings on today's top brands. You could save up to $4,000 on select GE Profile kitchen packages, and their price match guarantee ensures you're getting the best deal. When you think appliances, think locally owned Mountain High Appliance. Let's go to the phone lines. Paul Applewood. Good morning, Paul. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning. My father has a bunch of guns in the basement. Both of my parents are dead. I'm not really an aficionado of guns, but the next administration, just because I have a bunch of guns downstairs, in the house that I live, I might be considered crazy.
Yeah, it's part of what I'm worried about there, Paul, is the idea that that some of the liberals will eventually define multiple gun ownership as an indication of mental illness. That's part of what we were talking about last hour with, who makes the decision is really the idea inside of that psychology. Is I think that both liberals and conservatives could see a problem with saying, hey, we'll let the government decide if you're crazy. I think that statement alone should send shivers down most people's backs. Yeah.
And it changes, we have a vote every 4 years and state elections, and it changes. So one day you might be considered somebody who just has a bunch of guns in his basement because his parents are dead, and he's okay. And then the next day, hey, he's got to be a nut if he's got all those guns downstairs.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, but do you guys think that we're jumping to extremes here? We currently have a problem where people that have committed violent crimes are being let out, and we're concerned that if we start to put people away because of mental health issues, that people with guns might be lumped into them. It seems like we're jumping to an extreme and not dealing with a problem that's in our face right now, which is that violent people that shouldn't be out on the street are out on the street.
I remember I was just out of the Navy when they closed down Ridge Home here in Colorado, and we kind of looked at each other, and it's like, well, geez, where are all these people going? And I remember watching the news for 3 or 4 nights, wondering where all the people from, the Ridge Home Mental Institute, where they went. And nobody ever reported on that. So I guess we reap what we sow.
And now the really hard part about that, Paul, is try to convince people that we need to spend more tax dollars to fund mental institutions and mental health care. Everybody says they're concerned about it until they have to write the check.
But
then there's a whole lot of questions.
But I think it falls under community safety, where you're going to get conservatives that are going, okay, this is a place I might be willing to spend. I mean, you have money being spent right now to house the homeless. Mike Johnston's doing that. But the question is whether or not they're getting care to actually get out of homelessness, or we're just kind of already sweeping them under the rug. Go ahead, Paul.
I kind of like the conservative line in that the government gets involved when private enterprise can't do anything. I mean, the government is so involved in so many things. We've got to get rid of that and just use the government for things that the private sector can't solve.
And I think there's an openness when it's harming the private sector as well. Look at the city of Denver, right? You have restaurant after restaurant after restaurant shutting down. They can't make it in part because of minimum wage requirements, but yes, also in part of crime. The city can't get money because people aren't willing to go downtown and spend their money there, so the sales tax revenue has dwindled. So when it's directly harming free enterprise, businesses, and becomes a community safety issue, yeah, I think you'd see conservatives be willing to step up and go, insane asylums? Yeah, we got to bring them back.
Now, Paul,
the private sector can't do anything about it. I mean, their hands are tied. And then I remember you guys talking about, you're asking government to solve a government problem.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, but what do you mean by that? By having government solve a government problem? What problem is the government solving? I'm not sure I'm following you on that. I'm sorry. It's Monday. I'm slow.
It's just that, it happened in 1981 here in Colorado when they closed Ridge Home.
Oh, okay. I see. So the idea that the government closed it and that's a problem that now we're looking for a government solution. Okay, now I caught up. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me up to speed.
That's like most of what our government's doing, solving a problem that they created.
It's been over, 50 years now. 40 or 50 years, and nobody's looked at the problem. And, of course, people who go out in public and shoot people are mentally ill. But during
here's the thing, Paul.
They got rid of the whole thing.
Yeah, here's the thing, Paul. Here's the scary thing. Most of the mass shooters have not been proven to be mentally ill. They've been proven, especially we go back. Let's go to the Minnesota most recent shooter. Inside of there, the Minnesota shooter showed that they were in my opinion only, but in the writings they had leading up to that shooting, they showed they were competent. They demonstrated the understanding between good and evil. They understood that what they were doing was breaking the law, and they were taking ownership of it and advocating for it. That is not the actions of someone that is determined to be crazy or mentally ill by our standards, because the mentally ill standards in court mean that you don't understand the consequences of your actions. You can't be held responsible because I don't know the difference between good or evil and I can't weigh them. Everything we've seen in the lead up to the Minnesota shooting, this person knew exactly the kind of evil they were laying into. They knew exactly what they were doing. They took pains to make a chart of the church. This was premeditation, this was determination, and they absolutely demonstrated they knew the difference between right and wrong. That doesn't fall under a mental
in terms there.
Conversation then. He was just an evil person that went out and killed a couple of little kids and hurt everybody.
I think Bill's confusing terms there.
In what way?
You're attributing. So I think you initially said was not mentally insane. Was not mentally insane, and the definition you used was, therefore they shouldn't be incarcerated because they didn't know the difference between right and wrong, which is a judicial proceeding that takes place is to determine whether or not you should go to jail or go to a mental institution. I think it's very fair to say that person was mentally insane.
I see all the jails around, but what mental institution? I don't know how many mental institutions are operational in the United States. Do we have one here in Denver that replaced Ridge Home? So they, are crazy people ending up in prison? And of course, no matter what you say, you have to be a little crazy to go out there and let a gun loose on innocent people. Isn't that one of the definitions of crazy to begin with?
I agree with you, Paul. Thanks so much for the call. That's Paul from Applewood. Paul's line will be open. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Caplis, Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Kaplis is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Billy, should we go to Ken in Aurora? Let's do sure. Ken, Aurora. Good morning, Ken. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
So, yeah, the last caller, I worked at Ridge Home, and a lot of the people that were there ended up getting distributed to what are called satellite homes. So a satellite home essentially cost about half of what it took to keep that institution running per client or per bed. So that was what happened. But a lot of this whole thing, this whole trend toward what's considered to be mental illness or not, is somewhat driven by Geraldo Rivera back in the 70s, found a asylum back in New York where, according to that report, these people were being treated inhumanely. And, you know, between what's considered to be retarded and mental illness, many times there's an overlap, but not always and not necessarily. Regardless, that started the whole trend. And then for a while, I worked for a kind of a group home, and it was the same thing. These people, they were considered like, you cannot leave these people on their own. You've got to administer some meds and feed them and look after them, et cetera. So essentially, I believe the government in this case probably ought to step in, because when you got too many mentally ill people, menacing, threatening, drugs, homelessness, because of various trends and things that have been allowed to happen, you got to do something about it. I mean, what does Trump say? Common sense. You can love him or hate him, but is that how we want to live as a society? To me, I think Denver has slipped on the hierarchy or the rank of a civilized economy.
I got a question for you, Ken. Have we gotten to a place where you're determined, not your, I'm using your as the royal your, so I'm using this as our society, that your, meaning an individual, whatever individual that is, their determination on who or what makes someone mentally ill will be shaded or colored based on your politics? Are we going to let our politics determine who is mentally ill? And that could be something like our previous caller, who we could find liberals that would think, oh my gosh, you have more than 3 guns? You're freaking crazy. Or could we go the other way and say, wait, you're a man in love with another man? That's freaking crazy. You're mentally ill. Could some of the determination in our society of mental illness be preceded based on our determination of politics? What are your ideas on that?
Well, I think that's a great question. But first of all, a lot of mental health, I think, is based on perspective and perception. But having said that, in society at large,
yeah, that's fair.
We've determined and are determining, in my opinion, wrongly so, that some of these mental health issues, we're not addressing some of them the way they need to be addressed, like gun ownership. I mean, up until, say, 75 or 80 or whenever that mythical moment was, it was no big deal. There was gun clubs in high schools, and now this guy simply possessing them in his basement, he's ostracized. But shifting back to kind of these social trends or movements of what's right and wrong and the transgender issues and whatnot. Well, again, we're not being the adults in the room when we allow, people 10, 15, 14 to make choices that another part of psychology would argue they're not mature enough to make. The adult brain doesn't fully mature till somebody's 25. I would argue there's an extension in many people's cases, but regardless, we're emphasizing the wrong thing at the wrong time in, the gun issue and say this transgender issue.
Yeah. Here, Ken, I have a fun argument for you, or fun intellectual exercise for you. And Jeff and I have done this off the air a little bit. Let's talk, that idea of where you're going with the mentally ill and the transgender, and the idea of, especially with kids, and making decisions and determinations and choices. Replace transgender with vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Because the argument is with the MAHA movement is that, well, the parents should be able to determine what is best and what to put into my child's body. The government shouldn't tell me what I can or cannot put into my child's body. I, as the parent, should be the lone decider on how that happens. But unless and until I believe that my son or daughter is transgender, and I want to give them drugs, that would reinforce that. Until then. So again, I find it interesting inside our society that we have this virulent defense of choices parents are supposed to make until I don't agree with them.
And again, I think we're running down rabbit holes of potential possible laws and ways it could be abused. Every law could be abused. But when you're drafting law and policy, you're doing it for the most amount of people to bring about the best policy results. And in this case, you have people drug addicted, on methamphetamines, nude, living in tents in our cities, committing crimes, stabbing innocent people. And the question for me is, how did those people get there? Was there a history by which our judges and our DAs continually allow those types of people out? And in doing so, are we threatening the well-being of average, everyday Denverites heading into work? And if that's the case, what do you do with those types of people? A mom getting a vaccine, or a guy owning guns in his basement? Yes, you should take into consideration whether or not your law could affect those people. But right now, you got naked, drugged up people living in tents in our cities, stabbing people. What do we do with them? Ken?
I'm with you, Jeff. Well, I say for the safety, we had police. There's no mystery here. If you take problems like that, it's not a great solution, but it's one that works. You just basically haul them off to jail, set up an institution, and say, you got to go here. You're going to get drug treatment. That used to be a thing. Now it's kind of not.
Now, Ken, how long do they get drug treatment? And let's just use, because Jeff's using the stabbing example, let's go to the North Carolina. The guy that we believe has some mental issues and stabbed the woman in North Carolina for no particular reason. They had no interaction. He just came up. He was sitting behind her and just went stabby in the neck and killed her. So do we incarcerate that person forever? Do we incarcerate them for a time frame? Do we incarcerate them until the medication is in them? And if so, do we then have to mandate they stay on that medication? Because part of the issue you've got then is, as an individual, if I'm cut loose out of that institution, tell me how the state can mandate that I have to take a particular medication.
Well, I think that's more of I have my own opinion, but that's probably more of a question for, say, Dan Kaplis, a lawyer. But I know that there's thresholds. And say, in the case of prisons and mental institutions, in prisons, there's a parole board that says, did you really change? Right. And again, it's an imperfect system. Who knows who really changes and doesn't? I don't know any studies on that. and then like in a medical or mental institution, once somebody's been considered legally insane, it's like, dude, you're in, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah.
And so it is funny. It's kind of like fuzzy math, if you will. Who knows where that gray line is, where the real line is? I mean, to me, we've clearly crossed that threshold in the metro area and probably other major cities. And at the end of it all, if you track it all back, I think it's nefarious players in the background going towards socialism. In history, a lot of these things have been tried and succeeded or failed in other cultures and countries before.
Got a question for you, Ken.
Got
a question. So if we talk about the idea, like the example of the guy in North Carolina needing to be institutionalized for the rest of his life, that costs money. Are you willing to raise your taxes to incarcerate these people for the rest of their lives?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because
I appreciate that.
The economics are, hey, how many people is he going to hurt and kill, and what kind of damage is that going to, have on society? Because
it hits the safety issue. I mean, that's what conservatives believe that government should be used to secure safety.
Again, I appreciate that about Ken, and I more than anything else, the fact that he's like, yes, this is such a priority to me. I am willing to tax myself in order to pay for it. I got a ton of respect for that. I believe that he's absolutely 110% coming to us genuinely, because a lot of times I hear people more on the left side than on the right side talking about, I want all of these things, but what I don't want to do is have to pay for it. I appreciate the fact that he is willing to pay for the actions that he wants to take. I appreciate that, Ken.
Speaking of all of us willing to put our money in a good spot, the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. I absolutely love this restaurant. My entire family does. It's home-style cooking at its best. 8 locations. There's sure to be one near you. Bottom line, you want to take the family out to eat at the Black Eyed Pea. Go online at blackeyedpeacolorado.com and check out their featured menus that they run throughout different seasons in Colorado. They have special barbecue menus, burger menus, potato menus, and more. They've built a reputation in Colorado for the best home-cooked meal away from home. And it's better than that other home-cooked restaurant, Cracker Barrel. Just saying. They do catering. If it's a dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event, make it a success with Black Eyed Pea Catering. And no matter what the occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great for your special someone. Birthday favors or holiday presents, they have you covered. I love everything about this restaurant. I know you will too. Support local. Keep it in Colorado. Make it Maha, and visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's all kind of combined together. Homelessness, drug overdoses, people wandering around the city of Denver nude, stabbings that are taking place in North Carolina, polls coming out about the direction of Denver, about 50%. People saying they're not happy with the direction of Denver. That's up. The other 50% optimistic on Mayor Mike Johnston's leadership. So you have a mental health crisis that's happening among the homelessness. It's tied with drug use. And for the last 20, 30, 40 years, we've just kind of let them have community care. And by that, I mean we just let them live in tents. Now, Mike Johnston's come up with this kind of housing first approach, but do we just need to build insane asylums? Put people back in them. It's a safety issue at this point. You saw this 23-year-old from Ukraine get stabbed in the neck in North Carolina. Did nothing. She was just sitting there on her phone. And this mentally ill guy with a long rap sheet let out by these progressive DAs and judges. Has that created a safety issue that we need to put these people away in mental health institutions? Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver. Good morning, Jim. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, guys. Moment of silence for American Eric. So listen, we all have a government microchip that we carry around by choice. That microchip in our hands knows when we're pregnant or gay or going to commit a terrorist act even before we know it. And so the tools are out there to shut down future crimes. And even here in Denver, we've got a company on 17th Street that is dealing with categorizing people and their interactions on their government microchip for dealing with pre-crime. And soon we will be able to dispatch, I don't know, maybe police, if we have enough of them, to deal with people before they commit crimes.
Yeah, are we spinning towards Minority Report and precogs and all that? I mean, to your point, Jim, we're giving the government everything they need, right, to be able to identify our mental
on a monthly subscription basis. Absolutely, because nobody can set these things down. Here's the really ironic part. This company has been one of the primary funding mechanisms for our conservative vice president, who I guess wears eyeliner. And here, for some serious irony, the person that heads this company is a homosexual, giving tremendous amounts of money to the Republican Party.
Yeah, but Jim, I understand the concern about privacy, safety, all that. I'm looking at Do Better Denver.
No, you don't.
And they've got a video of a person just walking nude down, Clarkson and Colfax this morning. So
here in the Mile High City, the number one big question there is, did they sunscreen beforehand?
No.
Because there's a lot of burning that can happen.
They're drug addicted, stumbling around. There's not a chance they put sunscreen on. But Jim, are we too concerned about the what ifs and the big bad shadows that exist out there when I've got a nude person walking down Clarkson and Colfax and there's nothing that's going to happen to them? They're not going to be put away. They're going to be released. They're going to find their drugs, and tomorrow they'll probably be walking nude back down Clarkson and Colfax.
No one's going to solve any of these problems because the people that are tasked with solving our problems are politicians. And the politicians are more concerned with fundraising off the existence of the problems than taking care of the problem. Just like Democrats need Republicans, Republicans need Democrats. God needs Satan in order to validate our social beliefs around us and our mental beliefs. Our mental state is only balanced when we have someone to look down upon.
The thing, Jim, I do think you're correct in is the idea that they fundraise off of the difficulties because, and thanks for the phone call, that if they solve these problems, the programs would go away, the funding would go away, and their reason to be reelected. Jeff and I have talked about it for months here on the show.
They're the arsonists and the firefighters.
Exactly. That we think the best way to continue to stay in Congress as an elected official is to not get anything done, because then you got to go back and keep fixing this stuff that's broken. If you come and say, wow, did I accomplish a lot, and look at all the stuff that I've fixed, do you need to return? So, yes,
but
dysfunction is kind of baked into the system.
To actual ideas and solutions. You have a stabbing of an innocent 23-year-old that took place. You have a nude person walking down Clarkson and Colfax this morning in Denver. And the way we've currently set up the system, they're going to walk free. Probably.
Yeah.
All right.
This is the problem that I've got is unless we do something like a regular national mental health test, I don't know how we would ever get there. And remember, one, if we do, who's scoring it and who's designing that test? Two, what do we then use the results of that test to constrain your ability to do what?
There's a nude person walking down the street. Just lock them up. Golly. I love you. I love you when there's a naked person walking down the street. Okay, we need to get to a commercial. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, what do you think of this poll? Denver voters shift approval for Mayor Mike Johnston. About 50% optimistic for the city's future. Others, though, not happy with the homelessness, the lack of businesses, the crime, all that stuff. He's basically a 50-50 mayor right now.
Well, here's the thing, though, is when you kept coming back to the crime, is in that survey it said 72% of voters say they feel safe in Denver. So that swims against the assumption of crime, that the citizens of Denver, and again, I'm not one of them, could feel that there is an issue with crime. However, they don't reflect that as the idea of them being exposed or in danger because of it. And I think that's significant. The fact that you get to 72%, I mean, nearly 3 out of 4 Denver residents say that they feel safe inside the metro, which is, from my perspective, 180 degrees away from how I view the Denver metro area. That, to me, would be somewhere I would feel less safe if I was moving. If I was going into certain neighborhoods and looking at moving my family into there, I would have more concerns in certain areas. Now, there are other places where I wouldn't have as many concerns, but I also couldn't afford to move on to those neighborhoods. So that's part of the reason. But that's the thing that surprised me the most, was the idea that almost 3 out of 4 Denverites felt safe inside the city. That was the number that really jumped out at me the most in the entire survey.
What do you attribute the 50% not approving of the direction of the community to?
I would say a couple of things. One is there's going to be, in a small portion of it, but it's a small portion of people that don't think that Mayor Johnston is liberal enough. Because remember, when you say do not like the direction can be more in the direction we need to go and we're not going far enough, or against the direction we're going. Both of those cohorts exist inside that number, but I do believe it is a much smaller number that thinks that Johnston isn't moving in the right direction. Where I feel, and again, I'm probably just giving my own emotions voice rather than anything else, and I agree with, I acknowledge that. What I'm looking at is, I feel it is the enormous amount of money that was spent on homelessness and immigrants without a necessary return. And I feel that there's a large portion of Denver voters that look at that and say, if we hadn't spent that, maybe we wouldn't be cutting jobs and services. If we hadn't spent that, people that I know wouldn't be worried about not getting services they need. People I know may not get fired. We wouldn't still have jobs that are open. Maybe we could lean into more efficiency of government, having some of these positions open filled because we could afford to pay for them, rather than eating up the money this way. And that's my guess, is that it was a very, very inefficient way to spend a large portion of money. And now you're wondering, it's like the family that puts in the pool and goes, I have no idea how do you have any idea? Keeping up a pool is expensive. It's really expensive. And so they're surprised by that cost. I think that's part of it. Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
Would love to hear from you. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.